to the new show, Marc Schuster. Marc Schuster, for those that are just about to tune in, is from just outside of Philadelphia. He's a musician and an educator. But you have a seriously, insanely impressive resume. The scope of work that you do is ridiculous. You have a weekly radio show called the hashtag Tweetcore Radio Hour. You interview bands on your own blog on markschuster.com. You have your own solo work, you play with Scoopsky, you are part of the Star Crumbles, you collaborate with other artists, and you're also an author, which I didn't know until very recently. So I don't even know, we could start anywhere.
Yeah,
But
I mean, I gotta say, to be fair, I mean, you're pretty busy yourself. I mean, I look at all the things you do, and I look at all the things I do, and it's amazing how they just really parallel each other.
yeah, it's funny that you said that because as I was kind of getting ready for this interview, I was like, wow, Marc does first of all, you do way more than I thought you did. Even I already thought you did almost too much. But you do a lot of the same kind of things that I do, which is why it's like very interesting to talk to you today, because sometimes I find myself wondering why I'm doing what I'm doing. And I'm curious how you feel on your end of things.
Yeah, totally. I mean, to me, that's like the eternal question. It's like, why do I do this? And it's not even a why do I do this like, oh gosh, why do I do this? Because like there's no reward in any of it or anything like that. It's more like, no, seriously, like why am I compelled? Like, what is the thing in me that is just like I can't sit still, And I just feel like from my own perspective, there's just this constant itchiness. If I'm not doing something, I'm just pacing around my house, making my dog nervous.
Yeah, no, I'm kind of the same way. I'm constantly battling between like I gotta take some time off, I gotta relax, I gotta take it easy, I gotta go for a walk in the woods and just disconnect. And then as soon as I'm doing that, I'm like, I don't know, there's a lot of stuff I could do. There's a lot of stuff I could be working on right now, and I'm not doing it. Like, and it's this never ending battle of what do I put my time towards. Uh, I don't know if I'll ever find a balance in it. I don't know how you feel about it, but I feel like at this point in my life, this is who I am, and that's
Yeah, no, I've pretty much given up. I mean, I've given up on trying to say, all right, I'm going to relax. Because to me, I don't even know if it's a question of I can't relax, but it's just a question of what is relaxing to me.
yeah,
And I feel like to me, my brain is just always going, just going from one thought to the next. And at the very least, when I'm working on music or I'm writing interview questions or I have a specific task, I can at least focus all that energy as opposed to having it going all over the place.
yeah. I would agree with that. I kind of find that if I'm working on a project of my own or working on something, a feature of another artist, it's a weird calmness that comes with that type of work specifically that I don't get if I'm watching TV. Like I can't even. I was watching a movie last night and I was barely paying attention because I'm like, I got too much else going on. I can't even watch this.
That happens to me all the time. I can watch something if, yeah, if it's say like my wife and I are watching it, I can watch it. I cannot watch something by myself. I just can't sit because I just pick up my guitar, I start playing, and before I know it, 10 minutes have passed. I have no idea what's going on the show, and I'm just thinking, why is this even on?
Yeah. How do you feel about because this has come up a little bit on Twitter recently, people talking about going to like concerts by themselves, which I've done a couple times myself now, so I have my own opinion on that. Do you do that often?
I don't do it often. I do it once in a while. I do usually I'll call a friend, my friend Tim Simmons, I've played music with him since the 90s when we were in high school together and in college. And he's usually a good guy to go and see a show with. He'll be up for anything. And I'm kind of the same way, the same guy for him. He's called me a few times and it's, hey, this band you've never heard is going to be in town. Do you want to come see it? And I'll do it, and I'll go out, and that's kind of a cool way to just discover new music. Um, but yeah, I mean, if there's a band that's playing, usually it would have to be fairly nearby. Um, I just have this weird thing about, driving. It's more parking than driving,
Yeah, yeah.
But yeah, but beyond that, I am totally okay with just going into a place and just seeing a band that I like just by myself.
Yeah, it's I bring it up because like in thinking about how we're kind of the same with movies in that if I'm watching something with somebody, I can tune into it a little better than if I'm by myself. Not to say that like sometimes there's some things that are very gripping and they really captivate you, but more often than not, it's like you're kind of thinking about other stuff or you're thinking about wanting to talk about it with somebody else. So I've been finding like when I go to concerts by myself, on the one hand, it's great. Usually I'm obviously going to see a band I like, so I'm
Mhm.
already going to have a good time. Um, but a lot of the time, I found the more I've done it, is the more I find myself looking around, being like, "Oh, it's super cool that that group of friends is over there. Oh, it's awesome. Oh, look at that cute couple over there." And I'm just like, "Wow, I'm not taking in the show the same way I used to when I was going with friends." And like, I used to have a friend like yours who is that go-to, you
Mhm.
know, concert buddy that will go to anything, and it makes those are the best friends. Honestly, they are the absolute best friends. Um, so it's just kind of it's funny because especially being a musician yourself, it's like usually that would be a easier thing to be able to take in, you'd think. But I don't
Yeah.
know. Like, do you find you get in that kind of headspace at shows at all, or no?
I definitely get into that headspace at shows regardless of whether I'm alone or with someone else, and it's just my mind just starts going off thinking about stuff, I mean, it's not even I can I can pay however much money for a concert ticket and realize, 20 minutes in, it's like, "Oh, wait, there's a thing happening in front of me," but I've been
Yeah,
spacing out with, "Oh, gee, I wonder, I guess guess I should really change that light bulb in the bathroom," and it's it's just,
totally.
why am I thinking about these things? I should be enjoying this moment. Like, why can't I do that? And so I definitely get where you're coming from. But I also know, well, you just traveled to San Francisco, right? To
Yeah.
see a show. So I mean, you're doing it. You're going out. You're seeing this stuff. So what was not to turn the tables too much, but what was that experience like for you?
It it's so I've traveled now for a couple shows. I told myself when I bought the ticket for this one, this would be the last one I do because of how I felt about doing it the previous time. And
Mm,
I think that's still the case with me. I don't think I will travel quite so far anyway for a show. I mean, I have a hard time just getting out to Toronto and seeing shows in the city because I can't be bothered to deal with our transit.
yeah,
So yeah, so I went up to San Francisco. I've never been to California, so that was part of what allowed me, the ability to be like, I'm just gonna do it, just wing it, go out and check it out. And I'm glad I went because the show was really good. The show was a lot of fun. I actually ended up seeing two. They were playing 3 nights. It was the Postal Service and Death Cab for Cutie. So
mhm,
I went to two of the shows there, and I really wanted to go because I loved the albums that they were playing. The Postal Service Give Up record and Death Cab for Cutie's Transatlanticism record
mhm,
were some of my they were big records for me when I was younger, and still are on a lot of levels now. So on the one hand, it was fantastic. I would not have been able to see that show anywhere in Canada. They're not coming here. So,
right,
but at the same time, it's just like I found myself, as I'm walking around San Francisco, being like, it sucks. It sucks walking around places by yourself all the time. Like
mhm,
it's nice to have that break. I don't mind I do so much by myself that I'm so used to it. I'm not bothered by it, but it starts to feel a little tired and it's hard to get excited about almost anything once you've been doing it so much. You're just like, food is not exciting. You're like, I'm not interested in going to a restaurant. I'm not interested in getting another coffee. I'm not like, it just gets so mundane. It's almost like going to the office every day and or going to your job every day. I'm sure it's like you just get so routine about it that it's not exciting, and you want to talk about it, but more than wanting to talk about it, I think you want to share it with somebody. You want to be able to look back 10 years from now and be like, remember when we went to San Francisco and we, checked out all that cool stuff. But I won't be able to do that. It'll be like, oh, I remember that time I did that. And it's like
yeah.
less exciting. I don't know.
Yeah, it's being in that moment and talking to someone else about being in that moment anchors you in the moment in a way.
Yes.
In a way that's not there necessarily when you're by yourself, or you I guess it can happen by yourself, but it gets exhausting because you have to be both people. You have to be the person who's responding to your own thoughts, and that's just kind of, oh wow, it's pushing the limits of what what I guess people are more naturally inclined to do, I guess.
Yeah, I think it's a bit of an energy drainer because even just again something like, oh, where do I want to eat today? It's like I don't even want to think about it. Can somebody else decide today? But it's just you. So you're like, like I can't. Like you don't have anyone to expel any of that responsibility onto, and
Right.
then that I think is what's probably the more draining thing. Uh,
Yeah, yeah, definitely.
it's
And
like
you mentioned work. It's like at work, the only thing that makes going into work worthwhile is talking to the other people at work. You know,
yeah,
it's not necessarily the day-to-day, like, okay, this has to get done kind of stuff.
absolutely, absolutely. Speaking of work, so you're a college professor.
Mhm.
I didn't know that.
Yeah,
What,
yeah.
what do you teach?
I teach English. Mostly I teach college composition. So basically it's how to develop a thesis statement, how to do research, how to cite sources, how to develop an argument based on all of that.
That's cool. I figured it. I was gonna guess that it was English
Oh,
because of reading your writing. I was like, you would be a great English teacher for sure. How do you find that fits in with all of your creative passions? Like, how do you struggle with that?
not really. I mean, it all fits together for me, even with English, especially since I teach writing and composition. There's this idea in my head that it's all of a piece. So all the things I'm really interested in are related to the idea of self-expression. And whether I'm talking to musicians about how they do it, or I'm talking to my students about how to express their ideas clearly, it's all more or less pointing in the same direction. And as far as time management goes, right now, all the courses I teach are online. And so as a result, I'm saving a lot of time not commuting to work.
That's
My
all.
commute, yeah, yeah, my commute when I'm going into work is probably about 45 minutes. And so by not doing that, I save 90 minutes every day that I can work on music, or I can work on the radio show or do something along those lines. So that really helps me out a lot. And last week, I actually was filling in for a colleague who who couldn't work, and so I was teaching his classes, and that was really more of an exercise in, okay, now I have to get there, and actually he's teaching a campus that's even further away. And so I was just juggling more stuff, but in some ways it forced me to work on my time management a little bit more effectively.
Right. Well, that's good. That's a thing I forever struggle with is time management. Like I don't think I can ever go back to being a commuter for exactly that reason. It's like it takes up so much time of just sitting and doing nothing, and then that spills over into the rest of the day and makes it harder to keep up with the stuff that I actually care about doing that are not sitting in a car or sitting on a bus. Um,
Right, yeah, and that whole thing of being in your own head. I mean, that's 45 minutes of just being in my head of, "Oh, man, I gotta do that thing," and then, "Oh, there's this other thing. Wow, wow, yeah, I wish I was doing this other thing right." But you can't because you're driving, you're
yeah,
just trying not to kill other people with your vehicle, which is probably more important, I would argue.
totally. Do you think that like the seemingly endless pursuit of self-expression is the reason that you dabble in so many different things and can't seem to like hone in on one avenue?
That's an interesting question. I guess so. I mean, I guess this idea of self-expression is at the root of it. But again, I still look. So then, what's at the root of that? I always wonder. What is it? Why do I feel like, wow, well, I just really need to express myself? Because it isn't even so much I need someone else to hear it. It's not. I'm not that worried about. Oh gosh, I hope however many people listen to my song. It's just I have to get this done so that I could feel at peace and then move on to the next thing that's going to gnaw at me
Yeah.
until I get that one done. And so it's as soon as I get a project done, I just feel like, okay, that's done. And it disappears in the rear view mirror so quickly for me that I just feel like, all right, what's the next thing? What's the next thing we're going to do to just keep ourselves from getting bored?
Do you worry about that at all? Like that's something I think a lot of indie artists especially struggle with is this constant need to churn out the next thing, which largely I think a lot of us do it again for our own sanity. Like we just, I got more to say, I got more I can put out, I liked this thing I just did, I want to put it, just put it out there. But do you worry that you're kind of just clouding the atmosphere with so much stuff that it doesn't even give people time to like take in your the last thing you did?
I do try to pace myself a little bit in the sense of I don't I haven't really put out any albums of solo albums, I guess you would say. I put out a couple of EPs and mostly I'll put out singles. And mainly it's for that reason. I don't want to feel like, all right, here's 10 more things for me that you gotta listen to now if you want to be my friend. And it is even less in terms of like, ooh, is there an audience out there? But just people I know who have to be friends with me because we work together or something like that. I feel it's just like, hey guys, I did another thing. Oh, look, I wrote a play. Oh, look, hey, I made this. I made a little cartoon. It's it has to be exhausting after a while. And I could just see just family members and whatnot, like, yeah, no, we know.
Yeah.
Just give us a break. So in that respect, I do just kind of say, all right, that makes me feel less anxious about not making stuff, if that makes sense.
Yeah. No, I think I get that completely. I think I totally get that. But it is something I find myself relating to myself as well, being like, do I need to put this out right now, or am I just trying to put away this box so that I can
Yeah,
open the next box?
right,
Like,
right, right.
and do we need this many boxes? Like,
Yeah, yeah, it's like we clearly don't need this many boxes, but I'm still making them. So
yeah,
so deal with it, and it's fine, which is just kind of the thing I always liken it to is what if you were just really into electric trains, and you're just always working on your train set and you're always building it. And there might be a few people out there who are also into electric trains. And I'll just, that's so cool. I love what you're doing. And and that's kind of who your audience is. And
yeah,
then everyone else can just be like, oh yeah, that's my friend who's into electric trains. I don't totally get it, but hey, good for that person
yeah.
for you know keeping out of trouble by making electric trains.
Y-
Excellent.
Totally. That's what I come back to too. I'm like, there are worse things I could be polluting my time with for like
Yeah.
way worse things I could be doing. So I might as well keep doing that. At least it's like productive in some way.
Yes, exactly.
I was gonna ask you about because you're coming up to the first year anniversary of the hashtag Tweetcore Radio Hour, which I can't believe you're coming up to the first anniversary already. I
Yeah,
don't
that makes
know.
2 of us.
I feel like it just started like a month ago, but
Yeah,
what's a year?
yeah.
What so what made you, I mean, I guess I kind of know what kind of made you want to do that, but what really was the catalyst for, hey, you know what? I'm going to add radio host to my resume here.
I had been kind of kicking the idea around a little bit in my head before it actually started, and there were a couple of options. I'm at a college that has a college radio station, and so part of me was like, "Oh, maybe," and a friend of mine does a show called Sound and Vision, and it's basically a mix of playing music and doing movie reviews. And so he does it on the station, and I was like, oh, maybe I'll do something where I just focus on indie music bands that I discover through social media. But I never really went ahead and did it just for various reasons. It would involve that commute. I'd have to
Yeah.
probably go in and do the show live there. So when Quiz Boy, who runs Audio Mirage Studios, I think he was kidding, but he just said, "Hey, I have a radio station. Does anyone want to have a show?" And I was just like, "Oh, actually, this is a thing I've been thinking about. So sure." And so I just dropped him a line and said, "Hey, I'd be interested in a show. Don't know if you were kidding," but he's like, "Oh yeah, sure, definitely." And I just did put together an hour of music with me talking between songs, like a radio show, and said, "Hey," and it was just as a demo. It was, "Hey, how does this sound?" And then that Wednesday it was up, and it was like, "Oh yeah, this is perfect." And he ran with it. And then since then it was just like, "All right, let's just keep making these things."
Just keep it
And
rolling. Yeah.
yeah, yeah, keep it going. It seems like people enjoy it, and it's just fun playing people's music. It's just fun discovering new bands, obviously, but it's just fun when someone reaches out. It's like, hey, can you play my song? It's like, yeah, I can definitely play your song. It's
Totally.
I feel like there's so much weird gatekeeping in the music industry and arts in general.
Yeah.
And I don't know why, because there's so many avenues of sharing that art and that music that it almost gets to the point of, what are you defending? What are people defending? We're like, no, like this can be on this playlist, this cannot. Yeah, obviously there are sometimes questions of genre. It's all right, this is our country and bluegrass playlist, we're not going to play hardcore rap. But
Which
if
makes
if
sense.
yeah, it's like that makes sense. But then when people are just like, nope, nope, not for me. And then, people will share on Twitter, yeah, I was on Submit Hub and they said no to me because, and it'll be, a longish thing that's like, oh, we like this, and this, but it's just not for us. And it's just like,
Yeah.
there's plenty of stuff that I'll play that is not necessarily what I would always listen to, but someone sends me a song, it's like, wow, cool. Like somebody who's an artist, which is what I think is the coolest thing you can be, sends something that they've made. I'm just like, yeah, wow, thanks. I'm honored that you would even think of me.
Yeah.
So I'll definitely play your tune.
That's awesome. I think we need more people like you in that space because yeah, I find the same thing. It's like there's this weird amount of gatekeeping. I think places like Submit Hub are the devil. Like I don't even understand. I don't use them, full disclosure, because I don't understand them at all. It doesn't seem to matter how well your song is produced, how garbage your song might be produced. That's subjective, but
Yeah,
some
yeah.
than others. Um, if it's very catchy, if it's not catchy, it just seems to be a lot of these people get paid obviously to get these responses, and as long as they respond within 48 hours, they get their whatever their small little payout is. So for I think a lot of those people, it's just an easy little bit of revenue stream, and it's not
Yeah.
really about curating a actually good show per se. It's just like I need some income and I already have a following, so I'm able to be on this platform. um,
Yeah.
and I think it's awful as an artist because we know that we need to promote our work, or we want to promote our work on some level, but you have all these people in the industry that are not really there to promote your work. They're just there to make a little bit of cash. And I
Yeah.
think that's the saddest part of the industry right now, and the way that it's been going, it seems to be getting worse in my eyes. I don't know. Maybe that's just my small scope of things, but it's very hard to find people like yourself that are actively encouraging new artists and are keeping those gates actually open to new people.
Yeah, and I think there's a lot of the kind of pay to play mentality, which doesn't sit well with me. And there's also just a lot of, um I guess, scamming, for lack of a better word. There's just a lot of this talk, and even among the more, what I would call, mainstream platforms, such as Spotify or something like that. It's, well, don't you want to take your music to the next level? Like you could do, like, yeah, well, where are you now? And I suppose that's why Spotify shows the number of plays on a song after you reach a certain level, and it's just kind of like, oh, look, your song was played this much. And there's always this sense of, oh, wow. I'm shocked occasionally when it's like your song was played this much, and I'm just like, wow. But then there's that horrible voice in the back of my head. I wonder if we could double that. I don't know why. It's not going to change my life in any material way. But there's just this sense of, oh, that's good, but I'll bet there's something better. But I feel like they're playing on that psychological tendency in everyone to just kind of see, ooh, I have this, maybe I could also have this. It's like a weird modern day Aesop's fable or something like that.
Yeah, I find like 90% of the messages I get from people in general, it's all people being like, yeah, so you have this many followers, well, let's make that double. And it's like this is all it is. We're just like gamifying everyone's existence to an
Yeah.
extreme level now, and I don't need it. I don't need further. Like I gamify my own life with what I do, and that's how I accomplish tasks. But I don't need to be constantly like doing this weird battle about like, okay, yeah, we could always make that better. Sure, I guess. But it's really just comes down to them wanting to make money off of you, and not necessarily in a way that will help you as an artist. That will help you create an authentic fan base in any way. Like how great is it to have 20,000 streams on Spotify or whatever if no one's coming to your show in your hometown? Like, what is, I don't know, there's like a disconnect there. I think there's so much focused on that online marketing and how good your page looks on Instagram or whatever, and not enough on like, okay, but are you actually connecting with people that are listening to your music?
Yeah, exactly. And I feel like we've been trained not just as musicians or as artists, but as a whole, as a culture as a whole. Like all of Western civilization seems geared toward this idea of, well, the thing you should be aiming for is just for millions of people to adore you, or some weird empty sense of what it means to be a celebrity or what it means to be winning. And that's the thing that I think ruins music and the arts for so many people, because there is that overarching sense that if you're not doing that, you are failing. But like you're saying, a much healthier and I would say much more productive way to approach music in the arts is in terms of, well, what are the connections I'm making? I would much rather have a few people who say, hear my song and say, wow, that was pretty cool. That, brought a tear to my eye or made me laugh or made me smile or just made my feet move or something like that, than have, yeah, a bunch of just some number attached to a song title of yours. That
Yeah,
that means nothing. What is that?
yeah. And it's funny because like I struggle a bit also with like I understand like paying to play and all that those kind of things, but they were not ideal. But on the other hand of things, like they are on some level necessary if you are trying to also move to the next level. So it's a weird mix of both of these things that people need. Um I know like with writing and stuff, as a writer, I'm sure you agree that on most of your projects you would like to get paid for your writing.
Oh yeah, sure.
I would hope so.
Yeah,
Anyway,
yeah, yeah, yeah.
very good writer, and that should be compensated. But at the same time, as a writer as well, I know that we do a lot of stuff for the love of writing, for the fact that we want to do it, and that's the reality of most art, generally speaking. Um, but so when it comes to you as a musician, when you're trying to reach out to people, are you apprehensive about paying people? Or no? Like, do
Oh
you
yeah, no, I'm
you
definitely,
get
I'm
entirely?
above all, I'm a cheapskate. Is the I mean, that's like, I will not pay for any, if I can get something for free, I will do it for free. Uh,
For sure.
when I have used Submit Hub, it's been that like, oh, you can submit 3 credits or whatever they call it for free, and then wait 6 hours or whatever it is, and then just, all right, submit
More
3 more.
credits.
Yeah, and then I lose interest and it just goes away. But I am incredibly wary of paying anybody for anything. And even I feel like you posted something on, it may have been on Twitter, may have been one of your blog posts where you're just saying it's a privilege to play music in front of an audience, right? I
Yes.
agree with that. Like I totally agreed with that. It's and part of it, I guess the context is, yeah, people in the bar are going to be talking to each other because they're out not to see you, just they're there to have a good time.
Yeah.
And to some extent, I feel that way about art and writing. It's no one's making me do any of this stuff. No one's making me paint a picture if I'm painting or draw something. No one's making me make music. No one's making me write. And so I just feel incredibly fortunate when I can do that. And sometimes you get paid. And so it's like the one time when I'm thinking to myself, oh geez, I wish someone would pay me, is if they've asked me to do the thing.
Right.
It's like, yeah, okay, we have an assignment for you. It's like, all right, well, I'm not going to do this to make you richer. I'm not going to do this to help you just expand your media empire or whatever it is. It's more just, I don't even necessarily want to say what's in it for me, but it's what's what is not entirely self-serving to you, the person asking me to do this for you.
Yeah, no, I totally get that. I just, I guess for me, one of the things that I always come back to is I worry about, especially when it comes to writing. You already see in the world that, like, journalists, news journalists have hard times keeping paid positions now because
Yeah.
the expectation is just, well, you're a writer. And writers don't really get paid unless you're Stephen King. Like, uh, so I worry about that on the smaller scale when it comes to even things like very basic, music reviews or smaller independent music journalism and how that all plays a part in things. So I wonder if like at some point there's going to be more of a responsibility on us to recognize the fact that well maybe we should stop allowing so many things for free, or like there should be some sort of understanding that yes, this is somebody's side gig, their little side hustle, but there is value in that hustle. Like there's a lot of value in what you do, and I'm just being mindful of the time. We're about to run out of time here, so there's so much stuff we didn't get to even talk about, Mark.
Yeah.
It's
I
insane.
mean, if you want to hang up and call me back, we could do that.
We might have to definitely schedule a follow-up interview sooner rather than later because we didn't even get to talk about like so much of your own music and so many things that I wanted to ask you about. Um, but yeah, just to kind of finish that thought, like because it also plays its part and parcel into music. But I guess um, that's why I like just like you. I have a day job. I have another job that I'm doing stuff, and that's normal for Canadians. I think even more so than American musicians, just because we don't have the same music industry as Americans do. We don't have the ability to hop 2 hours into the next state and play a show there. It's
Right.
there's a we're a bit more limited when it comes to other ways to make money as musicians. Um, but yeah, I worry about that on a bigger scale, like how that impacts news journalism, music journalism, musicians, graphic artists, graphic designers, people that are doing designs for t-shirts and merchandise and merch cuts, all these insane things that are floating around the atmosphere right now.
Yeah. Yeah. It's like everyone's trying to get their little piece, but also trying to take advantage of whoever will work for them for free.
Yeah.
And I feel like now that AI is in the picture, that makes it even more complicated.
Oh, that's a whole other animal, and we don't want to encourage it, I think.
Yeah, yeah. No, I'm on the same page. And I totally agree with you. Just um even as far as music goes, I mean my advice to people is yeah, have the day job. Have a job that will pay your bills so that you can do whatever you want with your music.
Would you say
And
that's your best advice for the new and emerging people that seem to think that this is just oh, I'm going to be a musician for my life, and that means I'm just going to play music? Because that's not
yeah, yeah,
what it is.
totally. I mean, if your goal, let's put it this way, if your goal is to make money making music, that's fine, but you're probably not going to do it making the music you want to make.
Right.
And so if your goal is to be an artist, you need to I know there's stuff like Patreon or Kickstarter or whatnot, crowdfunding websites, but you are your own best patron, I would say. Because if you have the day job and you're paying the bills, the only person you have to answer to really is yourself, and you can make the music you want and you could put it out and people who like that music will find it. It may not be a whole lot of people. It may not even be, a few people. It might be like 5 people or so, but
Yeah.
if you put it out there and somebody hears it and likes it, you've done your job, I think. And I just feel like when people try to say, okay, this is going to be what puts food on the table or pays the rent, I think that's when the art end of the music starts to suffer because then you almost start hating it like you sometimes hate your day job.
Yeah. I totally agree with that. Yeah. I find again with having so many avenues, creative outlets, it's like I reach points with all of them at some point where I'm like, all right, this is feeling like a job, and I don't
Yeah.
want it
Yeah.
to feel
Yeah.
like a job. This is supposed to be my fun thing.
Right. Yeah. No, that happens. Yeah. That happens a lot, and actually, it's why I stopped writing more or less. I had written a few books, and after a while, it was just, oh my gosh, sitting down to write became a massive chore. And then after that, it's like, oh, what do I get rewarded with? Now
Yeah,
I have to promote the book, and it's
I
just,
get more work.
yeah, yeah, exactly. So it's, what I think I'm good with writing for the time being. Maybe I'll focus, and that's how I got into. I always used to play music, but the way I really got into music was, well, whenever I was trying to procrastinate with writing, I would play music. And
Right.
so to me, it was like, oh, this is the thing I want to be doing, as opposed to the thing that at this point is a chore for me.
Absolutely. I totally agree. I think we'll definitely have to schedule a follow-up interview at some point, sooner rather than later, because I there's just so many things we could talk about. It's been very, very, very interesting to finally speak to you in person. We've never spoken in person, so this has been nice,
Yeah,
honestly,
this has been
on that
great.
level. And thank you very much again for agreeing to be my guinea pig here on this new show. Hopefully, it's a continuing, ongoing thing. We'll see how it goes. And otherwise, is there anything you want to quickly plug? I'm going to do a little blog post that'll feature a bunch of your links and stuff, and we can have that easily accessible for everybody. But is there anything specifically you want to just quickly plug?
Sure. Right now, with AMS Radio, I have a mini compilation of songs by the band Failure. So it's me and Quiz Boy.
Awesome.
Billy Lowry plays on tracks. A couple other bands are on there. So that's a fun thing to listen for. It's not on Spotify, but it's everywhere else, as far as I know.
Cool. We'll definitely check that out for sure.
Awesome.
All right. Well, I'm gonna let you get on with your day and whatever's calling to you today. And thanks.
Awesome. Well, thank you
Thanks
very
again.
much. It's been great talking to you.
Awesome. See you later, Mark.